Well, hey everybody, welcome to Celebration Bar Review, and my name is Jackson, and I am. We've got some really interesting conversations coming up for you today. We had our first parent and child on this interview program a few months ago, and that particular episode of Hanging Out with Successful Bar Exam Takers is actually like our second or third most popular ever. And people are always talking to me about it, and they're saying, that guy, that old guy and his young son, that was so cool, I love that. And so, right, okay, I love that too. But then in one of those weird things that only the world can do, the young guy, Alex, decides he's going to take another bar exam, and he decides he's going to take not just no easy exam, he's going to take the New York bar exam while he's practicing as an attorney in Florida. And he takes the bar, and well, here we are. And so we have two firsts. One is this is the first time I've had a guest back on for the second time, and it's the first time that I've been able to talk to Alex and Herman since they got their results. So let me introduce newest member of the New York Bar, Alex Tarnow. Alex, so great to have you. Congratulations.
Thank you, Jackson. It's a very, very happy time for me personally and for my family, and it's all good. It's all good things. It was a very getting that email at midnight, not knowing when the date was, when they were gonna unveil it, which I think was, it's insane. But when it popped up at midnight, it was a great feeling seeing past. I'll tell you what, I was jumping up and down.
I bet you were. I bet you were. And Herman, we're glad to have you back. Probably in my list of favorite students of all time, you got to be right up at the top. So, congratulations, Dad.
It's a mutual admiration society. I'm happy that I'm more than happy that we have the opportunity to do this again. And clearly, given the circumstances, a 45% pass ratio, and given the fact that there was all kinds of crises and on every level, and I don't think anybody would appreciate how much you were involved on a hands-on basis all the way through the test. And I don't know that people understand that you are capable of doing that if you have a moment or two. And this was one of those times when you did it. And I called you in the middle of the exam and explained to you that I think Alex could use a little bit of rah-rah. And you called him. And not only did it mean something to Alex, because he explained to me after that he didn't bother calling me and telling me he called you that day, but afterwards we discussed it, and there was no two ways about it. Your input, your exhilaration, we call you the little man in the box, and you were the little man we kept hearing, and I just kept saying to Alex, I said, Alex was very concerned that he had screwed up one essay, and he had. And I said, Alex, it's 1 out of 5 or 6, and there's different reviewers, and people aren't going to know that you messed up that one. The other people have, unless they changed it. I said, and Jackson said that you have to worry about the next day, which is the multistate.
Right.
Well, needless to say, Alex, did you tell him your score on the multistate?
No, he hasn't told me anything.
No.
Do you know your score?
I think it is either a 158.5 or 159, something
okay, so
like that.
I'm doing a spit take here, folks, because a 158 or a 159, I mean,
get
real.
Little league number, right?
Yeah, I mean, Alex, I mean, it's so amazing, so wonderful. I'd like you to kind of talk about the story, because people who've gone back, and we'll link back to the earlier interview that we did with you and your dad when you passed the Florida bar. But why don't you pick up the story? I mean, now we kind of know where it ended. Let's pick up the story with, what caused you now to think, all right, I've passed the Florida bar, want to do the New York bar while I'm practicing?
Yeah, well, the area of the law that I focus mostly is information technology law and intellectual property. And the Florida market hasn't necessarily developed the way that I would have thought it would by now. And there were a lot of opportunities for me in Manhattan, in New York City. That's the mecca of that world right now, that in California. But I don't, so I focused on New York City. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending how you look at it, with the current practice of law, with Florida, there's no reciprocity, and there's no way to get around it. If you want to set up shop and become an attorney in New York, you have to take a New York bar just as if you were right out of law school. And so that was a very tough decision because it was a commitment. It's a time commitment. It's a emotional commitment. It's, you hear, especially with the New York bar, you hear war stories of people going in total chaos and stressing out, and you hear tons of stories about people taking it more than 2-3 times. I mean, just the other day, I was actually talking to some girl, and she told me when I told her to pass the New York bar, she was like, "Oh, I have a friend that it still hasn't passed it after 5 times." So those are the kinds of stories that you hear over and over when you hear about the New York bar. So there was a lot of hesitation on my part. And then to add on top of it, I originally did not realize that my MBE score was not going to transfer to New York, even though I took it within a few months, less than a year. And I got a relatively well, high score. But it wasn't, to me, that was not an issue. So when I found that out, that's when I even made it more of a difficult decision. But I said, if I really want to pursue this area of the law and I want to be in the thick of things in the future, I have to do this. This is just the price you have to pay. So I made that decision, and then I talked to you a lot, Jackson, about it, and we decided that it was doable. And you told me that I passed the bar once. I can do it again. But you told me that it is a commitment, and there were plenty of times, I'm sure we'll get into it, a month or so in, where we had a lot of discussions about whether my heart was in it and how I was feeling about it, because I think it's once you get back into that grind of taking the bar again, it's a grind, and it takes a lot out of you. You have to sacrifice social time, and you have to.
Can I jump in here for a second, Jackson?
Yeah, absolutely, Herman. Go ahead.
One of the things that I remember most during the ordeal, and I will call it an ordeal, was that you were not happy with his writing style, and you were not happy with his writing style vis-a-vis how the New York guys would look at it. And I said, and we had a real sit-down discussion, the whole family did, about, Alex, if you don't think you can do this, just give it up. Don't do it. And he said that, you gave him a little bit of a touchstone of how to write it for that, which was within his wheelhouse, which was within his ability to get it done.
Right. And
I said to him, I said, you know what? I said, if Jackson thinks that this matrix can work for you, go for it. What do you got to lose? You're halfway there anyway. But it was a family ordeal. I mean, this was not as simple a program as we thought, but your ability to get the information, and I know this sounds pandering, but I'm telling you, even though California may be where to go, we're not taking the California. I just want that stated right now, right here. No California bar.
Okay. You heard that, Alex. No California bar.
Yeah, that's just the way it goes, Jack.
I'm so done.
Yeah, I think to your dad's point, Alex, this is a big ordeal, and as you said, it was a big challenge and a different challenge from taking the Florida bar. When you're not a member of the bar. Now you're a member of the bar. You've got all their responsibilities. You're working. Your dad's there. You've got your brother. You've got a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
And I remember we had kind of a come to Jackson meeting in which Yeah, you remember that.
I remember it too, Jackson.
Yeah, it's Herman was one of the first recipients of those many years ago. But we talked about this whole notion that you had to get your head wrapped around this idea of taking this exam, and you were going to have to kind of stop pushing back, stop resisting the fact that you had to take it. It was your choice, as your dad said, and you could walk away if you wanted to. What happened after that conversation for you? What was the mind shift? Because it clearly made a difference.
Yeah, I think I really just embraced everything that we talked about that day, and I really you told me, you gave me a formula. You said, this is what, Alex, if you do this and you stick to the guideline, you do this and don't deviate and don't go overboard, don't burn yourself out, don't you stick to what the program is, you will pass this exam. And there's no reason, and you told me that you think that I was smart enough and that was not the issue. And I think from there I said to myself that I'm going to really hunker down and do it the correct way,
Yeah.
and not try to
Yeah.
and not be lazy about it, and also just really remind myself why I told myself I wanted to do all this stuff. Because you're right, it was definitely difficult. It was a very different experience than the first time, and I also think it was just frustration, like you were saying. I had other things going on in my life. I was like, do I really want to be studying for the bar exam again? It's especially after just taking the bar exam. It's not a very fun thing to do. It takes a lot out of you.
Yeah, and Herman, as a parent, and I've had this experience with my own kids, going through this process. It's kind of frustrating, isn't it? I mean, you want it for them, but you can't do it for them.
There's nothing I could do other than to say, your Helsinki captive, Jackson Mumey, is definitely, I think I got it right this time, Helsinki.
Stockholm Syndrome. It's the Stockholm Syndrome.
I got it wrong.
I'm telling you that. Stockholm. All right, anyway.
I always called it Stockholm, and you told me it was Helsinki.
Maybe.
In any event, the frustration, as you put it, was quite there. And then you have something which I had forgotten about, in that the people who you think are going to pass, you give them a little rah-rah 2 nights before they go in to take the exam. And Alex saying to me, I didn't get a call from Jackson. He doesn't think I'm going to pass. I said, give it a chance. Jackson has more than one person to call, Alex. And when the call came, he goes, Jackson called. I said, Is that what did he call to say you're a failure and you flunked out, or did he call me to tell you got it? He said, no, I'm going to pass. Yeah. I said, Jackson thinks that's a good indicator, if nothing else. But it was very frustrating.
And also, I felt like actually just talking about the actual exam a little bit, what you thought was going to be there, for the most part, was there. I thought that this exam, I don't know what you have, we haven't talked about exactly what you think of this exam, but I thought while I was taking it, I thought it was a difficult exam. Mm-hmm. I thought, but I understood, and I was kind of like, while I was taking it, I was like, okay, bar examiners, I see what you're doing. I know, I saw there was one huge criminal arson essay, and I was prepared for it, but I said, I feel like this is going to take a decent amount of time to get through thoroughly, and there was a lot of different subpoints, and but I think that was definitely, but the fact was that everything that we discussed, what we thought was going to be there, was there. It really, while I was writing it, there was nothing. We did enough of the practice essays, enough of the essays that were similar to what was there, that while I was writing it, I knew I was confident writing. It was a very
Jackson, at the risk of being an old timer, and I now am an old timer.
Yes, you are.
I can still say again, and I've said it I think on tape before, and if I hadn't, I meant to, that I still remember sitting there in Tampa with these 3,000 kids all in T-shirts. I'm the only one in a collared shirt, and they're all Muffy and Buffy and trying to make dates with each other, and I'm wondering how in the world they can even think. And all I kept hearing was Jackson in my head. Jackson, when you see this. Right?
I'll tell you, it's actually kind of funny. My dad always told me the story of, after that bar exam, he felt like he said his head never hurt so much that he wanted to put ice on it after the essays. And I don't feel like I had that feeling after the Florida exam, but I'll tell you what, after those essays on New York, I wanted to put ice on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I instantly thought about my father that day. I was like, this is what my dad felt like after that, 'cause that's how I felt. I was like, I was like, oh my goodness, I'm so happy.
I'll never forget that day, Jackson. I went back to the hotel, and all the kids were out there by the pool partying, and I'm finding the ice machine and putting ice into a towel and putting it on my head. I've never felt quite like that. And
I'd give anything for a picture of that.
Oh, God. I've been a trial lawyer for 40 years at that point, and I think I understand pressure, and I think I understand concepts and concerns and issues. Never felt quite like that in my whole life. But it's a tribute to you, and I don't want to get away from that you can somehow or other synthesize all of this because of your expertise in understanding the nature of the test, what to anticipate in the test, how to prepare for the test, and actually you say, you're the little man in the box, you're the little man in that box, and I can hear you saying all these things.
Yeah. Well, somebody called me the bar whisperer the other day. I don't know, maybe that's Alex, I know we've got a lot of people who are listening and watching today who are now going to be taking the UBE form of the New York exam. So they might be saying to themselves, well, it doesn't really matter. But in truth, you've done a couple of bar exams now, very different exams, and
Right.
you've been successful under a variety of challenging circumstances. What would you tell somebody who's just getting ready to go back in there and take the exam? Maybe they're a repeat bar taker and they've got to take it. What advice do you have for them?
You have to start. You can't believe that you know more going in than what you really than when you did it the first time. You have to think of it as, in my opinion at least, you have to think of it as this is a blank slate. I'm starting from the beginning. I'm learning the law from the beginning. I'm learning the writing methodology from the beginning. I'm not presuming that I know so much already that I can just jump ahead to other things. I think that would be one. I think I would definitely, I think that would definitely be the thing I would tell someone if they were taking it again, because I feel like I fell in that trap sometimes where I was like, oh, like I know the subject, but then you go back and you're like, oh man, like maybe I don't know the subject, and it's just easier just to have just have the approach of this is a blank slate, and I'm gonna go about it as if I've never taken the bar before.
Yeah.
I also think
fair to say whatever you did before, or if you took it already and you're doing a different state, it's a different state.
I also think, Jackson, that pacing became an important part.
Yeah.
That he had to pace himself. And there was one time where you said, like, take Saturday night off or something like that, and just, let some of the energy out. And I remember this New York thing was much harder than the Florida.
Yeah.
And that when he paced himself, or he thought he was behind in where you wanted him to be. Right. And I said, nobody does it all the way the same way, but you just pace yourself and get it done.
Yeah, I think that's really a good point. I think one of the things that sometimes gets lost when we're doing all this is people think it was a smooth trip. You started, it all went well, everything was great, and you passed. That's not really true, right, Alex? I mean, this was a struggle.
It's a look, it's preparing for a marathon. It's not an easy thing to prepare for that, marathon.
Sometimes you throw up, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. The bar exam is no different, and like you have to deal with telling your friends that, like, oh, I'm not going to necessarily go out 2 times a week on the weekend, and I need to rest and chill out, and especially if you have a girlfriend. I can't even imagine if you have a wife. That's a different animal. But it's all those types of things that are very real. And then also you have to balance doing other things in your life, whether working and taking your kid. But I think definitely the time management is tough. And I don't even think I really mastered it, or I wouldn't tell anyone I was perfect at it at all. So it's difficult. It's very hard.
Well, I think you were pretty good at it, but I think it was a challenge. And Herman, from your standpoint, I know that I've got lots of moms and dads who are. I mean, I heard from some today. I heard from a mom today of somebody who's thinking about taking the bar. What would you tell a parent, even if they're not a lawyer, if they have? I mean, you had the advantage of having gone through this and knowing what's going on and being part of all of that. But what would you tell somebody about how they can support a family member when they're going through the bar?
Take a second job.
Wait, I'm not that expensive. Come on. Come on. Give me a break.
Well,
No.
I think the best way you can be supportive is to understand that there's going to be slips, that everything isn't going to be, oh, I did well on this exam, Jackson just wrote me up good on that. It's a learning process, and you learn from the mistakes. You learn from the failures. You learn from when you didn't write a good exam or when you didn't take a sufficient correct judgment on, 2 out of 4 look right and 1 is better than the other. I still remember sitting with Alex and doing some of these things. A couple of them fascinated me, the constitutional law stuff and the issues which all of a sudden I got this little kid talking to me about constitutional law and criminal law.
It's crazy. Yeah,
I've never thought of talking to him about.
Right. So I had that experience with my daughter, and it was like, whoa, you used to sit on my lap, and and now you're talking to me about sophisticated legal concepts, more sophisticated than I understood. I think that makes sense from Herman's standpoint. From your standpoint, Alex, what did it mean to have your dad around and in your corner, working with you, encouraging you, part of this process?
Why, Alex? Why?
No, my dad was really supportive, and I'm very fortunate that I have a father that's an attorney, and he he has some understanding of what this is like, and a good understanding of the law. So I'm probably more fortunate than most that don't have that as a support system to begin with. Who I would assume a lot of parents have never even know anyone that's taken the bar exam. Yeah. So in that way, I'm very fortunate. But even though he was, besides being an attorney, he was just very supportive, and he said, listen to Jackson, and don't listen to me, and don't, you go with the program, and you have to trust it, and you have to, because there's ups and downs, and then when you're in the downs, you're going to be questioning, everything, but that's just a part of the game, part of the bar exam.
Yeah, and the great thing, Alex, is that you killed the exam. I mean, for all of the struggles and all of the challenges, you killed the thing. And you killed it, as your dad said, in an exam where, we've got bodies littered by the side of the road who failed. I mean, it is carnage out there right now in the bar exam world. And here you are, 2 bars and, all of this stuff that you've gone through and done. It's an amazing accomplishment. And I know you're proud, but I also know you well enough to know you're a pretty humble guy. And so I wanted to give you this opportunity to share your story, because I think a whole lot of people are going, wow, I'd like to be that guy. I'd like to have done what that guy's done.
Yeah, when I saw the numbers, I mean, it was very shocking. It was I felt bad. That was that's the bar. I don't know if it was a tougher exam or there was policy reasons. Probably maybe a little bit of everything, but it was tough. Right? Yeah. I mean, look, I left that exam telling my father, I was like, I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah.
And also, I thought the MBE too. I thought the MBE, but I was like, oh, there was definitely some different questions and different little shake up here and there. So, and then I remember talking to you the night before the MBE, which was amazing. Yeah. You really, we talked about, look, you have the MBE tomorrow, and you also said most bar takers don't necessarily think they did that well on the essays, when in fact they probably did just fine. And it's hard for you to decide that when you're the bar examiner. Yeah. So.
I think one of the things, I think you're right, and I think one of the things that's important to point out to our audience is that Alex worked his tail off. He did all of the assignments. He did the work, and he was open to the teaching and coaching. That when I made a suggestion, I mean, you heard Herman say earlier, I talked about a modification of the writing style because I wanted to play to Alex's strengths, and I think that's what a good teacher should be able to do. But the great part was that Alex was able to take that direction, take those notes, and apply them. He didn't go, oh, I'm not going to do that, or I don't care, or I'm too smart for that, or I'm too busy for that, or anything else.
I'm not smart enough for that. I wouldn't be asking for Jackson's help if I.
Yeah, and so the process of doing that, you got better and better and better, and you worked hard, and you got the product of all that.
I think what you just said is critical, Jackson, that he applied what you gave him as a matrix. In other words, when he realized he had hit a wall and there was definitely some slippage, and after he, picked himself up and spoke with you, and I remember there was one time when you were very tough on him, and I was glad you were, because that was the only way to get him to go beyond where he was.
Yes, right. I believe it's called Jackson's Silver Hammer. When you got the hammer on you, but.
Check your email while I'm talking to you. Jackson, can you check your email while I'm speaking with you?
I can, yes. Do I have a picture of you wearing your towel? I don't know. What do I got here?
Did it come yet?
Not yet, but it may be there. All right, we'll keep talking. We'll see if I get my email here.
You said Jackson Mumey at Celebrate. Yeah. Jackson got whatever it is, Celebrate.
Yeah. Jackson at celebrationbarreview.com. For those of you that want to know how you can get to me.
So I've been very curious, Jackson, and we really haven't spoken at all yet. I'm sure you've looked at the essays. I'm just curious what you thought of that part of the exam.
I thought it was an incredibly tough exam, Alex. I think that the examiners put more subjects into more essays than they've ever done. I thought it was.
That's what he came back and said to me.
Yeah, I think the New York examiners were doing this, as they were walking out the door to the people that are coming in to do the UBE, and I thought it was I won't say it was an unfair test. I thought it was an extremely difficult test, and very few people. I mean, the pass rate shows that. The overall pass rate, all bar takers, I mean, repeat and first-time bar takers, we're looking at a pass rate in New York of about 20%. So. It is, when I say it's carnage, I mean it really is carnage.
Jackson.
What's that?
You got to think about how crazy that is.
It is crazy. It is crazy, and we know that there's just a whole bunch of people who are really struggling out there, and so I think one of the reasons I like to do these interviews is I want people to know that it's possible to be successful, and that listen, Alex is a super smart guy, no doubt about it. But Alex is not supernaturally smart. He just worked his butt off. And because of that, right. I think that we get this result when most people were not successful. And the qualities that I think people have to bring out of this is that they have to be teachable, they have to be willing to do the work, and they have to recognize, as Alex said today, that there are going to be ups and downs. The process is not smooth, and it's not always easy. Now, I think it's really wonderful that, Alex, you could have the support of your family, you could have the experience of having been through the bar, all of the things that go with that. But I also know that it's just a huge, huge challenge, and people are kind of going, oh my God, what do I have to do to get through this test? And
Jackson,
so,
I'll leave you with this thought, and it's a thought I've told you before. I was 40 years out of law school when I took the bar for Florida. I don't know who was more surprised that I passed, myself or the bar examiners. It was definitely
me.
Touch and go.
It was me. I was the one who was most surprised. I couldn't believe it. No, I'm just.
I remember when I called you and I told you that I had passed, and you said, "Who's this? Who's going?
Who is this guy?" Yeah, no.
Any one of your followers that if they ever have a question, they can find me anytime they want, and I will share with them on a very personal level the incredible ability to have someone held hostage like you held me. And I know that Alex, when Alex said to me, "Do you want to do this with Jackson?" I said, "What do you mind?" Of course I want to do it with Jackson.
Yeah.
So We only think well of you, Jackson, and I'm glad that there's no more bars.
Yeah, yeah. So, Alex, I wish you well. I want to, again, just congratulate you. This is such an awesome accomplishment, and because this is my first time to be able to talk to you since the results, it's a heartfelt congratulations. Obviously, I'm deeply proud of you. I know what a struggle it was, and I know what you had to overcome to get there. I know what it meant to your dad and to your family. I know what it meant to you. And I just want, people, look, if you're watching or listening to this, this is a terrific example of what someone can do when they just put their mind to it and they put their head down and they do the work and they really make the effort. And I just want you to know, folks, you can do that too. And if you're willing to make that effort, it's going to happen. And Alex, it's got to feel pretty great today, sitting on the other side of this, knowing that you're a member of the New York Bar, huh?
Yes, it's.
Jackson, don't forget the vodka, Jackson. Don't forget the vodka.
Don't forget the what?
Vodka.
Okay. Listen, I want to thank both of you guys for coming on again. You're awesome as always, and I know people are going to love to see and hear this, and I'm sure I'll get as many comments about this interview as we got on the first one. But I want to wish you both a lot of success, great things to happen in your lives, more good stuff, and just thank you for your trust that you put in me and in our course.
Thank you, Jackson.
Thank you, Jackson.
Thank you, Jackson. Believe me, without you, it wasn't happening.
No, you guys are great. Well, listen, enjoy the fruit of your success, both of you, and thanks all of you for tuning in today and being part of this. I hope you had as much fun as we did, and we'll be back with you soon with another one of these interviews. We got lots of results coming out and lots of great stories to share. So thanks so much, everybody. Bye-bye for now.
Thanks, Jackson. Talk soon.
Bye-bye, Jackson.
Bye-bye.
Jackson,